Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Elements of Success. I'm Safriana Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide, and as always, delighted to join you for another live episode. So, today we are going to be wrapping up our fire arc and talking about maintaining our flames. Now, I know we have talked about burnout in prior episodes, but this is really looking at it from another angle. I think sometimes we really intellectualize burnout, but it's also an energetic and emotional thing. So, let's get into that today. And just in case you don't know me, like I said, I'm Safriana Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I am a licensed trauma therapist turned transformational mentor, a druidic priestess, and a long term teacher. So, I would love to just invite you to roll back in time a little bit and see if you took in that Phoenix practice at all. See if there was something you recognized that you were ready to burn away in your life, and just kind of take stock of that, because it's really important to consider what we're releasing, because what we're releasing makes a huge chunk of space in our energy to accept and welcome new things. Good morning, Amy and or Nancy. Good to see you here. And so again, once you clear away some space, you have a new energetic container that will a free energetic container, I should say, rather than new, right? Because you've filled it up with something that isn't serving you. You take that thing that's no longer serving you out, you clear it, you burn it away. You have a whole new empty container to fill back up with something that actually lights you up. And that's part of our ongoing shadow light journey, is diving down into the shadows and seeing what's not working and bringing them into the light, and either alchemizing and transforming them or letting them go. So, just to kind of rewind, because like I said, we're wrapping up our fire arc. Episode 11, we really started thinking about sparking our intention and learning to set obtainable goals rather than overwhelming ones. Episode 12, we expressed our creativity through embodied action and pleasure. 13, we transformed through the sacred destruction and emotional alchemy. And now we're moving into, well, how do we actually sustain our gains and continue to move on this trajectory of more of an integrated and aligned life for ourselves? So, it's really important just to recognize first, like, why do aligned actions feel different than other actions? We're taking actions all the time, and some of them I'm sure feel very aligned, and some feel like you're going through the motions, like you have to do, you should do, etc. But when we take aligned actions, we have a tendency to feel like we are regaining energy, or it's adding resources, it's filling us up in some way. Having said that, sometimes we do aligned actions that take energy, right? Because we're putting in effort, but there's always some reward. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about something from ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, which was something I was trained in, that really puts our choices into perspective. So, aligned action differs from forced action because, again, it generates more energy or resources in a way that feels less depletive or extractive. It connects us with our values and our purpose. Aligned action is going to honor our body's wisdom and rhythms, creating sustainable momentum that can actually build over time and feeling good in your body even when it's challenging. So, for example, I have just been flipping my house to get on the market. We just had photos done today. Bless. I'm so ready to hand that over into the hands of the next person. And a lot of the actions that happened there were depleting, and some of them weren't even aligned because they weren't necessarily a task that I wanted to do or in normal circumstances would have done, but they had to be done for the sake of putting a house on the market. So, in some aspects, there were forced actions there. And when we stack up too many of them, that can really, really drain us and lead to burnout. Once in a while, there's something that we do really genuinely need to do that we might not want to do. I know so many people, I use this example all the time, uh, who don't really particularly love doing chores. I don't really know anyone that loves doing chores. But if you value having a bug-free house, you kind of have to do your dishes and take out your trash, right? So that might be more of a forced action But that's like these little things we have to do to take care of ourselves. And ultimately, they are still in our values and in alignment in the larger trajectory versus if you are sustaining a job that every day you show up to work for 7 to 9 to 12 hours, right? And you are just loathing every minute of it. You dread going to work. You feel like you have to. This is the only choice for you. That's going to really, really sap you. Versus if you're showing up to a job where what you're doing feels really aligned. Yes, you're going to still spend some energy, but it's gaining you resources in a way that feel expansive rather than extractive. So it's a nuanced thing here, but ultimately, I want you to really pay attention to how these things connect you to your values and purpose. How do your actions connect you to your values and purpose? Are what things you're choosing to do actually mattering in the trajectory of your life? Do they match your values? Are they lighting you up? Are they supporting you? And if not, maybe it's time to return to that Phoenix practice and burn some things down and let them go, right? So we really want to take more and more aligned actions. And that also means recognizing those misaligned actions. So your body will tell you when you're out of alignment if you learn to listen. This might be a stomach ache. It might be an ongoing headache. It might be literally a signal, a pain, a tingle, a heaviness. You are going to have entirely unique signals from your body that give you different messages. So I'm going to just use a couple examples here before we get into our list. When I was in a really toxic and abusive relationship, we would go grocery shopping usually like every other week. And these grocery shopping trips became synonymous with really negative conversations, fights, abuse, etc. And I would start to get headaches every time before we would go to the stores. If my body was telling me, don't go to the store, you know how this is going to go. Ultimately, the true signal there was like, this relationship isn't healthy for you. It's giving you headaches and all kinds of other health problems. But I was just ignoring that signal as like a fluke. I was just like, I have headaches. I just get headaches, right? And we will just talk about our body signals as if it's, that's just whatever. That's just how it always is. Well, what if how it always is trying to tell you something? As a person with chronic diagnosed conditions at this point in the game, like I know that that is the result of burnout and continuing to take misaligned actions. Not every illness is that way, but so many of our ailments come from us continuing to deplete and extract from ourselves in the name of shoulds or have tos or whatever, stories that we tell ourselves. So if your body is crying out, listen. If you are grinding through tasks without joy or presence, why? Again, going back to, is there some value in this that actually is aligned, or are you just doing it because you think you have to? That forcing yourself with should language, shoulding all over yourself is not a good thing. It's really a sign that we are harboring a lot of inner judgments and challenging ourselves extra with these judgments. And if we're ignoring our body signals for rest or nourishment, I know sometimes, and this can be tricky, sometimes aligned and misaligned actions can have some similar symptoms depending on your circumstances. But as somebody with ADHD, I sometimes really struggle when I do get into a flow state. I'll forget to eat or drink or get up and take breaks and things like that. And that can be an ignoring of my body's signals for rest or nourishment out of literally not noticing them from being in the flow because of my neurospicy brain. So this is where, again, you need to get to know your own situation. If your body is crying out for rest and nourishment all the time, and you're pushing yourself, and there's no joy in presence, and you're building resentment, and pleasure's completely left the building, you're not feeling it anymore. These are signs that you're probably taking misaligned actions over and over and over again. So we have to learn to listen to these signals that try to let us know we need to make a change. And that is where the choice point or this process from ACT comes in. So as I mentioned, This was from ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. This was one of the teachings from that theory of practice that really changed things for me. So when you notice misalignment, you have the power to shift. Noticing invites in a choice point. I want to just talk about choice points for a second. We're going to come back and forth here. You have the power to make a choice pretty much any time. If you're watching this, you could make a choice to stop watching it. You can make a choice to continue watching it. That choice right there is up to you, which is better for you based on your unique values. We are constantly confronting choice points. And I will give plenty of examples here. But when we come up to a choice point, there are only two choices, even if there's infinite choices. We can move towards our values or away from our values. When we move towards our values, things feel good. When we move away from our values, things tend to not feel so good, at least in the long term. They might feel really good temporarily. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But when you come to a choice point, so you are realizing that you need to decide on something, A or B. A, I'm going to move towards my values. B, I'm going to move away from my values. I need to pause and be bold. And this is an acronym from ACT. So BOLD stands for breathe, observe, listen to your values, and decide your course of action. So I'm going to take you back with me in time. It's been at least 10 years. It's probably been like 15 years, honestly. So back in time to Safriana, the public school teacher, waking up at 5 in the morning, and I'm not a morning bird at all. Not one bit. So I'm getting up 5 something in the morning. I have right out of the gate a choice. What do I eat for breakfast? If I were really operating in my values, I would probably want to cook something at home. But back then, didn't have a lot of time and attention and all of that because everything was being a teacher. So I would move away from my value of that healthy eating towards the value of having some time to myself. And I would go and I would get a fast food breakfast. And this is a perfect example of a choice point that moves us towards our values or away from our values. So towards our values, if I were making the healthy breakfast in the morning, maybe somehow, dubious as a teacher, but maybe somehow making that homemade breakfast or having something healthier on hand that met my values would have given me more energy long term. But the choice in the moment was harder to make because it uses more energy. It was bigger expenditure. But getting that fast food breakfast and making that choice, short term, great, easy, delicious, fills me up, gives me energy. Long term, though, and this is the case for most of our moving away from our values, long term, it actually takes our energy down. Long term, it has a negative effect when we make that choice away from our values over and over and over again. Again, moving towards our values, often the short term is a little harder. It's going to take a little more effort or a little more work right now, but then long term we start to see the benefits. So when I started to batch cook finally, yeah, it was a big energy expenditure on the weekends, and it was, something that was less time that I had for other things, but that was more in my values, and I started to get that energy increase back because I was eating healthier food options. So again, with the choice points, you move towards your values, and that means might be a short-term, more challenging decision because it's going to take a little more oomph now. But over time, when you continue to move towards those values, you feel the gain and it stacks and it's more beneficial, more beneficial, more beneficial. Moving away from your values in the short term feels really great often because, again, we get that dopamine, we get that hit of whatever we're craving, we get that energy. But then long term, it starts to really drain and deplete us. So that is the core of what a choice point is. So again, when you come to the edge of a choice point, pause and be bold. Breathe. Okay, I have a second to make this decision. I don't have to make it right this moment. Okay, what's going on? All right. I'm gonna use just a work example here. Okay. I could go ahead and take this position that's being offered. It's going to make me $1 more an hour than I'm currently making. Okay. But also, it is another 30-minute commute further than my current job. And the current job that I have, like, has these other benefits. So you're weighing the pros and cons. You're actually observing, right? And then you're like, okay, $1 more, further travel, but I get to finally do what I've really been wanting to do, which is helping with this environmental sustainability effort over here versus this other job where, yeah, I'm making a little bit more money. I have a shorter commute, but I'm really dreading going in every day, even though I'm making a little more money, right? Because of not having to commute as far. So choice points, you observe, you start to pay attention to your values, you're playing with it, and then you decide your course of action. So many of us just decide. We don't take time to feel it, to observe, and to tune into our values and say, well, what actually matters to me here? Do I value creativity? Do I value freedom? Do I value sustainability? Do I value health? Like, really sitting with your values and playing with them, questioning them, and seeing how they would have you decide as you come to these choice points. So that's choice point and bold from ACT. I hope that that's a little bit helpful to you to just remember. I use the choice points all the time. Like, is this moving me towards or away from what really matters to me? If it's moving me away, why am I making that choice over and over and over again? Something bigger can be at play, absolutely. But the good news is we can always course correct back towards alignment. And this is where, just like a physical fire burns, your internal fire needs the right temperature to be sustainable. So we're looking at burnout from another angle, right? When we burn too hot, that is burnout territory. We're racing, we're forcing, we can't stop. We're losing that sense of pleasure. Go, 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 right? The fire rages too hot, it's going to burn out. If you've ever actually built a bonfire before and seen what happens when you tend it a little bit and then you add a little bit more wood versus it all goes up at once. When it all goes up at once, that fire is over quick. Right. So we want it to sustain. We want it to be able to last for our lives. If we dim the fire too much, we become too cool. This looks like apathy, disconnection, lack of motivation, depression, right? Our fire is nearly out and there is a lack of pleasure. So this is really in the realms of just not feeling life, and there's no spark, there's no heat to fuel you forward. What we want is to find our flame just right. This is Goldilocks and the three flames. We want it to be just right, where we feel that sustainable warmth. We feel energized, present. We can take our rest. We can feel good and feel our pleasure and have a healthy attitude towards life, right? Because what's never going to happen is you're never going to have it just right 100% of the time. That's not how life works. So our goal is to get it just right as often as it can be, knowing that at times we are going to push ourselves a little harder, and at times we're going to really, really slow down or even go into almost a freeze response, because that is human nature. We're built and hardwired with these different nervous system activation levels for a reason. So please do not chase the myth that you are going to have your flame burning just right for forever. The goal is to sustain it more and to move back towards alignment and sustainability instead of what so much of our culture is wrapped up in, which is really pushing to burn our fires hotter and brighter faster. And there's a reason why burnout is so normalized in our society right now. And on that note, we need rest, because rest tends the coals of our flame. And this is how we burn sustainably, is we find the right kinds of rest There are so many kinds of rest. This is like another myth. People think rest is just sleep. Mm-mm. There's active rest, passive rest, and it is fuel. So, our active rest is doing something nourishing and restorative. I love going to the infrared sauna, for example, and that's a little more active, right? Because I have to go somewhere to do something, even if the doing something is sitting in a hot box for a minute, right? Like, it's restorative. Active rest for me can be playing a video game because I'm doing something that nourishes and restores my inspiration and my creativity. And it's just fun. Active rest can be doing something fun. It can be a nice little distraction that you're being intentional with. The key is presence. And I used to use this example with a lot of clients because I'm a video gamer. I really learned the difference between active rest and passive rest when I would have days off, uh, either from college or being a teacher, and I would binge play the Sims video game. And I would, speaking of not nourishing yourself, I would either be mindlessly like eating snacks while playing, or I'd forget to eat altogether and it would be, 11 o'clock at night, and I'd snap out of this fugue state because it had been 8 hours or more of me just binging this video game. And that was not nourishing or restorative because I wasn't present. I wasn't really getting something out of it except for that like dissociative, distracted state. That's not restful. So you can absolutely watch TV and rest. You can absolutely play a game and rest. You can absolutely hang out with friends and rest. As long as you're present, you're enjoying yourself, it feels restorative in some way. And it's not like doing and being super active. Passive rest is that pure stillness. That's what most of us think of as rest, is laying on your couch, zoning out, or napping or sleeping. And that's important. It's important that we have stillness. Passive rest can be doing a meditation. It can be doing a body scan while you lay in bed. It can literally just be resting. Sometimes I rest on a pokey mat or a shock T mat. It's the mats with the acupressure spikes. And I really don't do anything while I'm doing that usually. I put on some solfeggio sounds and I just close my eyes and I put a little eye pillow on. And I sometimes set a timer for 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, and I just do that. So, whatever works for you works for you. There's no right or wrong, but you are invited to explore what active things do you do that you feel restored by? What passive things can you do that you feel restored by? Intention and presence is key. And this is the big kicker that we all need to remember is that it's essential. Rest is essential. It's not a reward, or at least it should not be the reward for productivity. The mentality that we have in our society right now is that rest is earned after hard work. Rest is a basic, one of the four basic elements that I have in my way to live a healthy life. It's literally your rest, your sleep, your nutrition and hydration, your physical movement, and your mindfulness. Like, these are the four pillars of good health. So if you're not getting that rest, you're not going to be in good health. It's important to remember even the brightest fire will burn out completely if you do not tend to the flame. Pleasure, we talked about pleasure. I want to bring you back to pleasure. Huge on pleasure activism. Pleasure is your sustainability metric. You enjoying yourself means that you're going to come back. You're going to want to keep doing that thing. So if your once aligned action stops feeling good in your body, pay attention. I have the silliest example here. Silliest example. I hit 215 days in Duolingo. And I was enjoying my Duolingo for a long time, 215 days ish. It's about day 200, they changed something in how they were doing the health points in Duo. So when you make an error, you would lose a health point and you'd have 5 health points. I very rarely made errors, and I'd get on in the morning, play Duo for 5-10 minutes, get my points for the day, log out, all would be well. Then they changed something. And just think about how simple this is. They changed something to where instead of having those 5 health points, now you have 20 energy points and you can only do 20 exercises whether you make an error or not, and you lose more energy if you make errors. So even though I was continuing to have my good streak and I was doing just as well, I could only play for a shorter period of time before I couldn't play anymore at all. And so I wouldn't finish my daily, which was like the thing that made me feel happy in the morning. And I got my daily points. They would want me to log back in after my energy came back, which is going to be a couple of hours. So they're doing this to pull people back into the app. And I was like, man, 215-day streak. But this last week playing on their new system just was not it didn't feel fun anymore. There was something about the way that they changed it that just wasn't feeling aligned for me anymore, and I use this as it's a silly example, me playing Duolingo, for that to just get that signal, "Oh, I don't like this anymore. This isn't for me." So if I can pivot and, like, have such a big, "Oh, my body is feeling different," about something so simple, how many things are we ignoring that are bigger than that, that we're continuing to do, that are routines, habit relationships, even that just they don't feel good, but we're ignoring those signals. So again, I share the duo story for a laugh, but also these are the little signals we'll start to feel if we're paying attention. So I stopped playing Duolingo. I don't miss it. Sorry, Duo. We had a breakup. But pay attention to what feels aligned in your body, knowing that it's going to catch on before your mind does. So your body knows before your mind catches up. So my body, like getting on and feeling the way that the new system was working on Duolingo, even I was just like, I could feel the resistance coming in, where I was like, oh, I'm not excited. I don't have that little, ooh, I'm going to do my Duo and get my daily badge, because they were putting blocks that were not anything in my control. So my body knew before my mind caught up, and then my mind was like, oh, they changed this and I don't like that. So if your body is like, oh, something changed at work or in this relationship or whatever, and then your mind is like starting to catch up, right? Pay attention to that. And here's what I want to say about pleasure. Pleasure does not always mean easy. It can be rejuvenation, expansion, presence, bliss. Pleasure, oh gosh, there's just so much to say here. Pleasure can be a very basic thing where it's like I eat something tasty and it tastes good and I enjoy that. And then here's where I go back to this mindfulness and presence piece. Just like I can binge play 8 hours of The Sims, I can binge eat a whole chocolate bar and have a experience in my mind that it's pleasurable and easy, but it's still not be rejuvenating, expanding, present, or blissful. Because if I'm not present, I can't really enjoy the pleasure. So even things that are easy that we might go to for what we would call pleasure, I invite you into the deeper sense there. And does it meet your values? Does your pleasure meet your values? Is your choice of how you're gaining pleasure continuing to move you towards things that are really of value to you? And it's important to remember that our sustained action includes embodied satisfaction. So when I'm working on my novels, I really feel an embodied sense of satisfaction when I write that chapter, when I finish it. I'm present when I'm writing. I'm expansive when I'm writing. I feel blissful when I'm writing, except for maybe certain types of scenes. But that embodied satisfaction of, ooh, I'm enjoying doing this, that's what you're looking for. Joy and fulfillment are the signs that you are on the right path. And again, it's not going to be sunshine and glitter and rainbows all the time, because we do have these bodies we have to take care of and physical surroundings that we need to tend. But if pleasure is gone in your life, that is a huge red flag and a wake up call. If you are not enjoying yourself right now, wake up call. Something has to give or you are going to burn out completely. Working with resistance and procrastination. Resistance, just like body pain, is another form of information about something needing attention. Now, what attention is completely unique to the given situation. But if you are feeling resistance, so for me, I'll just use the example of marketing my books. I have so much resistance around marketing books. Ask, what is this protecting me from? So, my resistance around marketing my books is protecting me from the fear of being misunderstood as a salesy human being when I'm totally not. And that's like all ego and stuff, right? So then I could start impossibly small. What can I do? Just one tiny step. I could just go share on a social about the existence of my books. Why? Reconnecting to your why. What originally excited me about it? Well, I want to be an author. I want to be a writer. I want to share my words. The marketing part doesn't excite me, but the books do. That's my big why. I want my books to reach people. Then move your body. So shifting stuck energy through embodied practice. So if I'm feeling too antsy about it, I'm probably going to go outside and put my feet on some moss, take a few breaths, maybe do a lap or two around the yard, maybe dance. I love to dance in the kitchen in my socks and spin around. So once I've moved my body, then checking the alignment. Is this actually mine to do? In the case of marketing my books, it absolutely is. So then I know, okay, this is resistance and procrastination because of fear, not because this is misaligned. So let's take another example because that was, resistance can tell you to rest. Maybe I need a little more rest. Maybe I need a little more work around the fear of being misunderstood, right? So I now have a very clear trajectory of what I could do with that. But if I were to say, okay, I'm feeling a lot of resistance around applying for this potential therapy opportunity that could get me clients without me having to do much work. Okay, what is that protecting me from? So I'm asking, what is that resistance of applying for that protecting me from? Well, I know it would take a lot of time away from what really matters to me, which is my writing. Could I do just one tiny step? Yeah, I could go look at the salary and the benefits again and kind of see what the hourly expectations are and start to think about, is that going to meet my values? Reconnect to my why. What originally excited me about the idea of applying for this therapy position? Well, not having to do marketing and find clients. Okay. Move my body. So if I were to go and move my body, and I've done this. This is actually a thing I was working with recently. Went out in the kitchen, did some movement, talk, kind of vocalized some things. And then I said, is this actually mine to do? Is this actually aligned? And the answer was no. This is ego thinking I need this job over here to do the thing, to make me safe, to make sure I have an income. I have an income from my other therapy clients, right? That tells me I need to release this. This is ego. I'm resisting and procrastinating on applying for that because that's genuinely not for me. So sometimes resistance and procrastination means something is for us, and sometimes it means it's not for us. This is where we need to get to know those inner signals, really knowing what your soul signals are, what your body tells you, what your energy and spirit tell you, what your emotions tell you, because our ego is constantly trying to make sense of this world and stay safe and do something of meaning, right? But we really do, we force our own hand so much. And I think that's why we have such a relationship with procrastination to begin with, is because if you grew up in a public school system, you had a lot of things that you were told to do that you probably didn't really want to do. And you probably wanted to put them off because they weren't really aligned with your values. So sometimes that's the clear signal, yeah, this isn't for me. And sometimes it's terror and it's like, this thing really, really is for me, but I'm just scared. I'm so invested in it. I'm scared it's not going to work out. That's me with my writing career. I imagine it's you with your dreams, your big goals, right? We can resist them and put them off because we're scared to fail. So get to know your signals and ask, do I need more rest or do I need to release? And we've talked a lot during this fire arc about reigniting, or our will rather. So reigniting our will when we hit those challenging times, just like we were just talking about, return to what originally excited you about the thing in the first place. Feed your fire with new inspiration. So books, art, nature, learning, whatever is related to your goals. For me, when I'm getting ready to go back into writing, I go and I digest another piece of media completely unrelated. I digest another story. I digest a book, a video game, a short mini series, TV show, like something to really excite me for character work and plotting, right? And seeing someone else's material sort of dredges that up for me. So if you're a home, your dream is to be a homesteader, you want to build this amazing garden homestead. Maybe you're spending time out in nature, you're getting some books, you're watching YouTubes of other homesteaders, right? Like what's unique to your situation that's going to feed that fire with inspiration? Spending time with other passionate people. The 5 people you spend the most time with are the 5 people you are going to emulate the most in terms of your life satisfaction, how you spend your time, what energy is in your life, all of that. So if you are looking to reignite your will, you're feeling really down and just unmotivated about everything. What's everyone else around you going through? What's their experience like? And can you find some other people who are passionate about similar creative things, or they have a similar creative fire and can cheer you on in what you are doing? Taking a retreat day for focused attention on what matters. The retreat day, there's so many different definitions of retreat. The definition I'm using here is a day retreat to focus. I think I've shared about these before, but just as a reminder, when I have a big thing, so the most recent one I did was for my website overhaul, just completely overhauling my website, and it was very important. So I took a day for just that. I scheduled this working retreat to just work on my website. And I woke up in the morning and I made some breakfast, and then I sat down and I started with inspiration. I looked at website best practices. I looked at some other people's websites that I really liked. I got inspired. Then I went and fiddled a little bit on my website, had some lunch, came back in and looked at a couple other dreamy websites, worked on my website some more, took a stretch break, went outside, did some self-care, came back, finished up the retreat day by wrapping up the work that I was doing for the day on the website, and then I had some dinner. That's what I mean by like a retreat to focus on something, is that you actually schedule and you regimen time for self-care and time for work in a way that you might not on a normal day. That's what makes it more of a retreat from your regularly scheduled programming. And then revisiting your Phoenix practice. What do I need to burn away or release now? We need to come back to this over and over and over again, because we're constantly going to pick up things we need to put down. That is, again, being human. And it's okay to fluctuate. Like, again, that is being human. You are never going to be enthusiastic about everything you do every day of your life, but you can be intentional about layering in more joy and play and satisfaction if you continue to make these aligned choices and point your willpower towards what has value for you. And just 2 more things on this when it comes to reigniting your will is outside structures. So your willpower inside of you, right, comes from you, your soul, your calling, what you want to do, what's most valuable to you, et cetera, et cetera. But that in these environmental external factors do matter, because just like I just said about the 5 people that you spend most of your time with, the environment that you're in matters and the support that you have matters. So you do not have to maintain your fire alone. In fact, we should not. And again, I just talked about not shoulding, but in some cases, these are the appropriate uses of should. Things that are true. We should not be solitary creatures. Humans are communal creatures. We are meant to support one another. We're meant to be in villages and squads and tribes and groups of cultures. We're meant to be in small groups. That's just how it is. And now we have countries and these bigger and bigger groups, but ultimately we are one people, one planet, and we all need each other. So accountability structures are huge when it comes to moving towards our goals. There's that self accountability, checking in with yourself, that internal willpower. But there's also our community, our people who witness and celebrate our journey. And then there's our mentors, guides who have walked similar paths. And a mentor can be someone we hire, it can be an elder, it can be uh, literally a book we're reading of somebody who's sharing their story. But we want a variety of accountability, self, community, some form of something outside of ourselves to help us build and support and maintain that fire. And then on environmental design, oh, so many of us just automatically fail out of the gate because our environment is not set up for success. We are sabotaging ourselves before we even get started. So, removing friction, making aligned actions easier. What I mean by that is removing, deliberately going in and witnessing, here are the obstacles. I was recently talking to a client who wants to craft more, wants to make things with her hands, and very gifted artist. But she noticed that in her environment, there was literally clutter that was making it very hard to make the choice to create because she kept feeling like I have to clear the clutter before I can create. Well, that's the answer then. The friction comes in the form of this clutter. Well, we want to take the aligned action of removing the clutter so we can take the aligned action of creating. So, this is where we go back to that starting impossibly small and we take the bite-sized actions that feel like if our nervous system is highly activated and we're just like, oh my God, I can't do this. We go to the tiny bite-sized, what can I do? So if it were clearing clutter that would be removing the friction, maybe it's literally one piece of clutter gets removed right here, right now. And then we reassess if the nervous system can go further. But we want to remove, like digitally, if I'm trying to write, but I have 18 tabs open, it's going to make it really hard. In fact, I ordered a tool for myself that is a distraction free typing but writing tool because it's very hard for me to write by hand due to my chronic diagnoses. So I have to go and look for an accessibility tool that can help me reduce my distractions. Reducing friction or removing friction simply means reducing those obstacles that are in our way because there's plenty of environmental obstacles that do end up holding us back. Adding support, so creating reminders and structures. This is if you're like, I want to reignite my spirit and my inspiration by playing a video game, but I know I have that tendency to zone out and play it for 8 hours. And a support would be an alarm on my phone that reminds me, hey, it's lunchtime. For you, adding a support towards whatever will you're trying to ignite is going to look completely unique. But how do you set yourself up for success? I remember reading in a book about fitness a long time ago that one of the ways that you can get out of your own way when it comes to going to the gym or doing fitness is to literally set your outfit out. Like your sneakers and your outfit or your gym bag are out, but not just like tucked away. Literally, you can see the gym clothes and the sneakers maybe next to the gym bag. So your brain goes, oh, right, there it is. And I'm walking out the door now because I've already got my stuff right here. Instead of that, oh, well, I would need to pack and I need to get the towels and I need to get the this and I need to get the that. And then, so I'm just not going to go to the gym today. It's like we remove the friction and we add support in advance so that when it's time to walk the path, we just walk the path. And ultimately we're building in flexibility and self-compassion. So it's about learning what works for us and doing that instead of doing what everyone else thinks we should be doing. And this is really, really the key about igniting our will. We want to celebrate our progress, not just our completion, because our will is what sustains us while we're making the progress. Our will is not what completes the act at the end of the day. And like our will isn't needed when it's done. It's needed when we're in the ongoing journey. And I just, as always with this series, want to bring us back to the planet because the connection that we have between our personal care also has to do with the relationship we have with our planetary care. So if you are not sustaining your flame, if you are burning out, chances are you are mirroring that in how you're able to show up in the world and the planet's sustainability. Perfect example, and this is not to demonize or shame anybody, but in 2025, I made the attempt to go plastic free. Very quickly realized how impossible that is in modern living, unless you're literally growing all of your own stuff. Because sometimes even going to the farmer's market to get produce comes in plastic. And so I just had this realization, I can't, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to reduce the amount of plastic that I bring into my house. I'm going to make sustainable swaps. But then going back to this example of me flipping my house for this last little bit, I was getting a lot more takeout. I was getting a lot more plastic silverware because we were eating at the other house and couldn't dirty things and didn't have the ability to keep redirtying things and having to reclean them. And so I, again, with the choice points, moved a little away from my values because I had so much else to do that it was really hard to sustain. So I say this again, not to shame anybody, but just as an example. When I look back, even to being a teacher, and I look at this plastic thing, right? I had so few reserves in the past that every meal I got had plastic in it. Every choice I made had plastic in it because I didn't have any extra energy. I was so burnt out that I couldn't make those other choices. And so the invitation here is to really pay attention to how do you tend your own energy and how does that look or mirror how you're tending the earth? Are you drained? And so you have to consistently make choices that don't meet your values, but also have a negative impact on the world around you. And again, I want to be so clear here that this is not oh my God, we're all morally failing and we need to completely overhaul our lives. It's okay. My energy is also the energy I'm able to give back to the world. So I want to improve my energy and sustain my flame so that I have more to give out in the world in an aligned and sustainable way. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't. We all try, those of us who are recovering people pleasers and codependents, but it's not really how it works. So, sustainable rhythms honor our body and the planet's cycles. It honors that we are not supposed to be extracting all the time. We're not supposed to be growing all the time. And we're not supposed to be depleting our planet's resources quicker than it can reproduce them. And this is that, it's all tied together. Rest is radical in a culture of extraction and depletion. And what you consume physically, mentally, and emotionally does matter. And again, the key here is tiny, sustainable changes over time. Remembering, just like me, whatever your values are, you're going to fall to the dark side and completely not live in those values because of whatever circumstances. And you can still pick yourself back up and get back on your aligned track. That's totally normal and even okay. But aligned action includes considering our impact on all beings. And the more that more of us have the inner resources to consider our impact on the planet and other beings, the better off we're going to be. But see how if your response is to immediately beat on yourself or feel guilty or shame, then that's going to drain your resources and make it harder to sustain. So again, small changes over time. Let's talk about creating your toolkit. And this, just as a heads up, is your weekly practice. So creating a toolkit for when your flame starts to dim, you're feeling that burnout or you're feeling yourself going into that depression. What reignites you? What are your specific sources of inspiration and joy? How do you course correct? What are your go-to practices for realignment? For me, it's going out and standing on the moss, dancing to some music in the kitchen, and then doing that bold, like breathe, observe, listen to my values, make a decision based on my values. What does rest look like for you, both those active and passive restoration forms? So this would be something to really experiment and play with, right? Maybe you don't know what restores you yet, and that's an invitation to go try some things on. And then aligned action rhythms. Do you like to take certain daily, weekly, or monthly practices as a part of your routine that continually reignite that flame, keep you steadily assessing what's your next right move instead of scrambling and panicked and depleted and all of that. And then what are your emergency protocols? What do you do when you are completely depleted, burnt out, you cannot function? Who do you call on? What do you do? Why? What are you going to do to recover, right? What are your emergency protocols? And the invitation is to write this down and to return and tweak it. Because, like I said, with the silly duo story, like that used to literally be a part of my morning routine until I realized, like, oh, this is feeling like work and I'm not loving it anymore. And my body is not lit up by doing it. So it's not a part of my little, routine of rejuvenation. It once was. And that's okay that it's not anymore. And, continuing to assess and pay attention to the state of your inner fire. We talked about it burning too hot, too cold, just right. We can really learn to listen and assess where we're at by just tuning in, by looking within. So when we can get that sense of where we're really at, we can take those bold choices actions to do what we need. So we can add specific fuel, so we can feel maybe inspired, but not have a direction. So maybe we add some specific structure to the fuel pile. Maybe we tend the fire because we need to make minor adjustments in how we're approaching something. Maybe we let things settle when we're pushing too hard and we need to ease back. Maybe we completely rest because we're flickering out and we need to restore. Or maybe we burn away when something is blocking us or dampening our fire and we realize it no longer serves. Ultimately, only we can know what our fire needs because it's inside us, it's our spark. So I invite you to really listen, to go within. And I want you to remember that taking aligned actions is a lifelong practice. There's no arrival point. You are not going to land one day and be like, oh, yes, I have taken my final aligned action. And now all of the actions I take from here are perfectly naturally aligned. I've figured out and I've cracked the code. I wish. But cracking the code really just means getting to know ourselves in this moment and each moment as we move forward. You will never master this. This is a practice. It's not a destination. It is a practice of continuing to say, oh, that worked for me. I liked that. That was aligned. I'm going to do that again. Ooh, that was terrible and I hated every moment of it. And it's really not worth trying again. Or maybe there's something to this. Let me keep trying it and see if I can tweak it, tend it till it really works for me. Remembering that your needs are going to change across all phases of life, all seasons. I've talked about spectrums before and identity. We slip and slide around on them all the time. So your fire will need different things at different stages in your life. The fact that I used to be able to dump an iced coffee on my fire and go all the way through the day. And now if I did that, my body would scream and I would be sick as hell. So your needs are going to change. Listen to your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, and listen for those subtle cues. Knowing what's aligned today might not be aligned tomorrow. We really are just in the practice of listening and learning to respond with compassion. Remember, your fire is yours to tend, and it's very much needed in the world. Your unique voice, vision, experiences, all of that is so necessary for the world. So let's just take a moment here to drop in and breathe and tune into our fire. So I just invite you to land here in this present moment. Your eyes can be opened or closed, whatever feels natural and good to you. But we're just going to start by taking stock of the physical body, head to toe. Noticing any of those body signals, any tension, tightness, pain, as well as noticing any softness, ease, relaxation. And as we've been working with our inner flames, I invite you to tend to yours right here, right now, tuning in looking to see, is it burning just right? Do you feel present and energized, ready to make your next aligned action? Or does it feel like the fire is burning low, like you're drained, and you need more energy? Or does it feel out of control, like you're burning too hot, maybe scrambling or anxious? Just noticing, observing, and then asking, what do you need from me, fire? What do you need from me? Just receiving any answers that arise. What do you need from me, inner flame? And maybe here, if your fire is burning too hot, what could you take out of the fire? What metaphorical log is adding too much fuel to the fire, causing you to have to burn out? What responsibilities, real or imagined, are causing this strain? If the fuel feels low, like you're struggling with motivation, what metaphorical log could you add to the fire to help bring back energy and vitality? And if your flame is in equilibrium already, or you're moving it towards equilibrium, how do you know when your flame is sustained? How do you know in your body when it feels good? Just noticing what you notice here. And then I invite you just for a few breaths here to breathe with your fire, to see your inhale impacting the fire, to see your exhale impacting the fire, noticing if it wiggles or waves, if it gets bigger or smaller. Just playing here for a few moments as you breathe in and out with your fire. Giving your fire some tending. Your attention to your own spirit, your own soul in your body. Presence is the key, and is the key to your health, to your alignment. So notice what it's like to be present to your inner fire here, even if but for a few moments. And then gently offering yourself some gratitude for showing up with presence to pay attention to your fire. You can go ahead and release this practice, blinking the eyes open if they've closed. And coming back into the room with a nice no tiger twist. Look around up and down and reorient fully to your physical space. Mm. So, my loves, as I said, your practice, your invitation for this week is to go journal about your restoration kit. What reignites you? List those things specifically. What inspires you, gives you joy, motivation, etc. How do you course correct? What are your go to practices when you notice you're misaligned? Maybe bold being bold at choice points will become one of those now, so that you can remember if you're moving away or towards your values. And then what does rest look like for you? Again, those passive and active forms of rest that work for you and your body. And finally, what is your aligned action rhythm? We're going to be talking about rhythm a lot more soon. So this might trickle in a little later too. But you can start to brainstorm daily, weekly, or monthly practices that support you and specifically fuel that fire so you can take the kinds of actions that light you up. So that concludes our fire arc, my friends, taking aligned actions, which is part of my seasons framework. And fire guided us through that because our spirit is the seat of our willpower. Next time, we're going to enter the water part of the framework, which is all about our cycles and our flow, and just really getting into all of the seasons of life. It's literally the seat framework is how we move through the cycles of our life. So we'll start by talking about seasonal influences on your energy and mood. We'll talk about the water element and how it represents so many different things, including adaptability. We will talk about water wisdom across cultures, recognizing your current life season, and then natural cycles of flow, stillness. We'll talk about those daily, weekly, monthly, yearly rhythms and how to know when you're in flow versus when you're forcing, and so much more in the water arc, where, water also tunes us into our emotions. So we worked with some hard ones during fire. We're going to continue to expand our repertoire of relation with all of these inner aspects of ourselves. And my hope is that through this framework, through the seasons approach, through reigniting your relationship with the natural world, that each and every day you will feel more aligned, happier, healthier, and ever more whole, knowing that you are that and so much more. All right, my friends, I will be back to kick off the water arc here soon. And in the meantime, I invite you to go think about how you're going to restore that fire when it burns low or too hot. And if you still need to burn some stuff away, that Phoenix ritual. So if you do, know that you can come back to this at any time. All right, my friends, until next time, I'm Safriana Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. Bye for now.